to the Thought Brothers. I'm Gary Johnson. They call me Mr. Producer. Today is the 20th of November, and it's been quite a week. We got, I'm sure the brothers will talk about all the events of the week. Brother Carlos, you stay in the world of finance and current events. What do you got for us?
Let me just go through the usual topics, and I'll try to make them quick so I can do that baton toss to Mr. Spivey. Hey, look, Gates. Come on, Gates. Hey, Gates.
What's with Gates?
Come on, man. Look, they want Gates, what, the former congressman from Florida, to be the attorney general. Okay, I'll just say there were probably several people who could have been better choices. I'm not sure in the world of politics if you can have more dirt on your resume than some of the things that they're saying that they're accusing him of. Now, I thought about this, right? And I said, oh my God, the Democrats and Republicans are just going to argue over this appointment. But I said, you know what? We don't have to worry about that anymore, right? The Republicans have the House, the Senate, and the White House. So if he doesn't get appointed, you can't blame the Democrats anymore. So let them worry about that. Someone also said in the news that there are so many controversial appointments by President-elect Trump that this one with Gates could take the majority of time and effort away from doing additional vetting of the other appointees, whether it be Dr. Oz or what is it, the WWF?
Linda McMahon.
Lady McMahon?
Linda McMahon.
Linda McMahon.
Education.
So that could take the emphasis off them because they can't vet everybody 24 hours a day for the next 2 months or whatever the case may be. Very interesting. But I'll just say, again, I believe there were several more candidates in each of these departments, especially the one for Attorney General, that would have been better choices. So I don't know what to say about that. I did go back and watch an episode of 60 Minutes that happened after the election. And it basically said, why or how did Donald Trump win in an area or areas that were primarily Democrat before? And it was very interesting because they went to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and they interviewed several people, white and Latino, and young people. And they basically all said it all came down to the dollars. It came down to the economy. It came down to if they're hardworking blue collar people, it just simply came down to, again, literally bacon and eggs. Came down to groceries. It came down to, again, the economy. Now, they literally emphasized that they didn't care about anything that was going on with him personally. If he can make the economy right and make food affordable and control inflation, they simply just don't care about what happens with him personally. To us, that goes against everything we've learned, in our lifetimes. But it made me start thinking about a couple of things. It made me start thinking that, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. The party that, issued the Emancipation Proclamation, freed the slaves. So at one point, as African Americans were Republicans until there was some type of shift to make things go for them to change to the Democratic Party. Are we at that point again where lower income people in America start to shift from the Democratic Party to the dog even agrees with me. I said Democratic Party, he's going crazy. But are we at that point where we see lower income Americans literally want to switch from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party because they now think that is the party for people who have lower income and need and have more major financial needs? They also said that these social issues of abortion and gender equality, those are issues for people in their words, those were issues for people who had the time and resources to think about that. One person specifically said that if I'm worried about putting food on my table to feed my family, abortion and gender equality is not the priority, topics of priority in my household at this time. So they can talk about that all they want, but I'm worried about buying groceries and putting a roof over my head. So if you look at it that way, where are we headed? Because all of the Democrats that were, you can say pretty much, I'm going to say us, right? If you live in a decent house, have a decent income, decent career, we're Democrats, but is the Democratic Party starting to turn, and I would think we're at a point where we can say we're fairly educated, right? I don't know. I'm not going to say anybody's Ivy League graduate or has that Obama education with a Harvard law degree, but I'm going to say we're educated, have decent careers and decent salaries. And does that mean we are the new Democratic Party of educated Americans who have six-figure salaries, that understand that 34 felonies is bad, that understand that sex and drug charges are bad, that understand you shouldn't disrespect people, you shouldn't storm the. So is this the new Democratic Party? And then the people who don't make six-figure salaries, who don't have careers, who are struggling to put food on their table, whether they're Latino, Black, whether they're young, old, are they the new Republican Party? I'll save sports for the end. Let me turn it over to Mr. Spivey. What are your thoughts?
Wow, Carlos, that's a mouthful. You got me lost for words. I was trying to think back. I used to be a history teacher, and you were right. Back in the day, African Americans were Republicans. I don't remember what president it was, and I'm trying to ponder my brain, but there was a promise made to the African Americans by that president and Frederick Douglass, and he went back on his word. And that's when the African Americans switched from the Republican Party because they felt like they had been deceived and became Democrats. But as far as what you are asking about, I just have no idea. I don't know. Personally, I don't know what the country is coming to. I did some Googling, and prior to the election, the number one question or search at Google was Joe Biden still running for president? And after the election, the number one search was, can I change my vote? Those two things tell me how ignorant people in this country has become. Because unless you lived under a rock, it has nothing to do with messaging or anything else. Unless you lived under a rock, you don't know who the hell is running for president of the United States. And after you're that dumb to figure you can vote for the president and then you can go back and re-vote again and take your vote back. So it just tells me something about the country. And so it's just very hard for me to answer that question. But these appointments that have been made this week, they're just mind-boggling. But surprising, no. When you elect a person who's an egotistical maniac, who is not smart and two-syllable president, why would you expect any appointments to be above that? You have to think about it. But the one thing that I've been looking at over the last few days and have been seeing on YouTube is people are upset because they want to know why Tim Scott and Brian Donald have not gotten a cabinet post after 25% of the Black men voted for Donald Trump. Now, I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I would say to people, think back to 2016 when he became president. He had a guy in his cabinet, with him by the name of Ben Carson. You may not know the history of Ben Carson, But Ben Carson performed the first successful separation of conjunctive twins in 1987. The operation took 22 hours of endurance and precision, and they were joined at the head. What did Donald Trump appoint Ben Carson to? Head of NIH, Surgeon General. He made him head of HUD.
HUD, yep.
So so why would you be surprised that he has not appointed any blacks? It just amazes me how quickly people forget. Now, as far as you mentioned, Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz is a politician and a lawyer, but he has never practiced law, never been in a courtroom. And he's the one that's being appointed Attorney General. He has been under investigation since 2017 for sexual assault. Some of the people involved with him are in jail serving time. So in order to avoid being indicted, what did he do? He resigned from Congress in November of this year. And what was his award? Appointment to Attorney General. Give you an example, he's going to be replacing Merrick Garland, who you talked about earlier, Ivy League. He graduated from Harvard undergrad, went to Harvard Law School, and was Chief Justice of the Appeals Court for DC. He appointed this guy named Pete Hetrick as Secretary of Defense. The only thing he's been was an infantry officer, and he was a Fox News person. He's going to be replacing Lloyd Austin, 4 times four-star general, commanded the 12th Command Division, and was Vice Chief of Staff for the U.S. Army, graduated from the military academy. Those are just 2 appointments. Look at the people they're going to be replacing. And then our good old boy, Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, another one. He's never did anything but been in Congress, and he was in the House of Representatives in Florida. He's going to be replacing Anthony Blinken, lawyer, diplomat, worked under Obama, he was a Deputy Secretary of State from 2015 to 17. He's a former Deputy National Security Advisor, but he's got an infantry officer replacing him. It says it goes on and on. And the one that really is going to flip you is Tulsi Gabbard. She's going to be the new DNI. That's the Director of National Intelligence. Gary probably would laugh at this one because people don't realize who the DNI is. You don't hear a lot about the DNI. But you know what the DNI runs? The FBI director reports to her. The CIA director reports to her. The National Security Director.
Homeland Security.
NSA. All of them report.
All of them.
And she's going to be the top person. She has never worked in intelligence in her career. And last but not least is Linda McMahon. She's appointed the Secretary of
Education.
And I think there's been several clips of her knocking a woman out in the ring. She was the executive for WW Wrestling, M&A. So it just, I don't see why anybody is surprised or anything, but it just shows you how short people's memories are. Because Donald Trump did this stuff in 2016. Nobody in his inner circle in the White House was African American or Latino. And when he did what he did to Ben Carson, who was probably one of the top surgeons in the country, made him head of HUD. That says everything you want to hear about Donald Trump. It's yours, CJ.
Sure. I mean, I don't have too much to add. You guys have gone through the cabinet picks. They're all pretty terrible, predictably so. I think the best one is probably Matt Gaetz, and he's a kid diddler, so that's not a great pick. So policy wise, he's actually probably the best pick, which is still kind of terrible. And the only reason he might not be confirmed is because he scorned Republicans. So he's kind of, every once in a while, he makes a good vote randomly on things. And, you know, the Republicans, he's been someone to buck Republican leadership. So he's the only person who might not be confirmed. But other than that, if we're talking about short memories, the Jon Stewart had a great piece this week on the Daily Show highlighting the Democrats' short memory because they're already normalizing Trump again. He was a threat to democracy. He was Hitler 2 weeks ago, and now everything's cool again. You know, him and Chuck Schumer have a picture of they're high fiving and smiling, and we saw how Biden treated him in the White House, and now everything's okay. Now he's not. You know, they're just normalizing Trump. Which is again not great messaging for your base who you were just calling the man Hitler 2 weeks ago and a threat to democracy, and now you're chumming it up with him and handing him more executive powers, which is a little crazy for a guy that you were calling Hitler. So it goes back to hurt the Democratic Party, as Carlos was kind of mentioning before. They don't really have an identity. Nobody even knows what the Democratic Party is anymore. It used to be the more working class party, but now they've moved away from that because they also take a ton of donor money from big corporations. So now they can't fight for the people anymore because they're taking the same money. So now there's no real distinction other than Republicans are more insane. You're going to get WWE people and Fox News hosts for cabinet picks instead of sleazy lawyers and, you know, intelligent, terrible people. Now we're just getting stupid, terrible people. We're going to get a really, really incompetent cabinet, but it's nothing that's surprising. It's more embarrassing that the Democrats lost to this again, after everyone was sounding the alarms and telling them how to not lose, and they continue to double down on a losing strategy. So again, it just shows they're really deeply unserious. I don't know where the Democratic Party's going. The Republican Party can try to make inroads as a party of working people, but they're also not serving. Trump is stacking his cabinet with billionaires and the Legion of Doom, basically, to raid the country and make it easier for the oligarchs to rule. It's got Elon Musk following him around like a pathetic best friend, and there's not a lot of surprises, I guess, come from this. So again, people like me were sounding the alarm saying, hey, we might want to stop going around with Dick Cheney saying like, hey, I'm more Republican than the Republicans. And again, as Mr. Spivey said, people are also stupid too. You can't undersell the fact that a lot of people in America are not plugged into politics and are not interested in this. Like, just period. The political theater that goes back and forth between Democrats and Republicans. But again, I think most of this is the failings of the Democratic Party to differentiate themselves from the Republican Party, and now we're stuck with 4 more years of Trump. We're just going to have to deal with whatever Fox News host and Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. running healthcare and you know, running different health systems, and they got that man eating McDonald's on the plane like a humiliation ritual. He's supposed to be the health guy, and then Trump's got him at UFC eating McDonald's, and Trump's at UFC with Joe Rogan, and you know, they got a bunch of athletes now doing the Trump dance, and Trump has just been normalized again. He's just and maybe this is just what America deserves. This is the true face of America. Honestly, he's a great representation of the American empire. He stacked his cabinet with Zionists. He is capitalizing off of Joe Biden just being absolutely horrendous on his way out the door. Joe Biden has just approved long-range missile strikes with our missiles in Ukraine to piss off Russia for some reason on his way out the door. Now Russia has updated its nuclear doctrine because now they have U.S. missiles flying inside their territory, shot by NATO in the Ukraine, which was greenlit by Joe Biden for some reason. I don't know who wanted that. I don't know what voter base wanted World War III other than his weapons contractors, but Joe Biden is the one who put a weapons contractor in Lloyd Austin in charge of Department of Defense. So even though, yes, he's a black man, but I'm not really a fan of black corruption either, or black revolving doors in the military industrial complex either. So we have a lot of conflicts of interest. Joe Biden also and his administration and Kamala Harris, who are tirelessly working for a ceasefire in Gaza, blocked a ceasefire resolution in the UN. They're the only country to make sure that the genocide continues. So again, these are really avoidable things that the Democrats could just stop doing to hurt themselves. And also, again, as Jon Stewart laid out, normalizing Trump is going to continue to be a problem as they lay down and won't use any powers to defend our institutions or democracies from Trump and his terrible cabinet picks. As you mentioned, Merrick Garland, the guy who didn't get a hearing because a loophole that the Republicans pulled out. And then when the Republicans did the same thing, the Democrats just, oh, you can have Amy Coney Barrett. Oh, we'll lay down because it would be impolite for us to do the same thing. So they're not a serious opposition party. They just have proven that they're not. They're not a serious opposition party. They are fine to go back to brunch and fundraise off of the existential threat of Trump while they high five him in back rooms and hand him more executive power. So that's where we're at. It's going to be a long 4 years and probably longer than that, because if we're going to stay in this two-party duopoly, there's not really going to be any solutions to this. The Republicans will continue to be able to frame themselves as the party of the working people until people realize that they've been looted from the top by the oligarchs and the Elon Musk and the Linda McMahons and all those people. So that's where we're at.
Wow.
There's two appointments that really concern me. And I'm sure it's not going to concern people who Google, whether they can take back their vote or who the hell is running for president. But there's two appointments that really concern me. And one of them is Marco Rubio, because he wants to go to war with somebody. He's a warmonger.
His whole cabinet wants to go to war with Iran.
Yeah.
He has a very Zionist cabinet.
The other one that concerns me is Tulsi Gabbard, because with the things that's going on in this country now, with the war going on with Russia and Ukraine and the genocide going on with that criminal over there in Israel, when you put somebody like Tulsi Gabbard, who is the CIA director, the FBI, and the National Security Agency director has to answer to, and you have someone this incompetent along with Marco Rubio, I think we're heading to another war, and it might be World War III.
Man, it's pretty depressing, but I can't say anything about that.
Yeah, but I say, because that's Biden putting us on the steps of World War III. We got an old, incompetent, senile man for some reason.
No, Trump is going to put us in World War III. Biden's might have put us on the step, but Donald Trump is going to put us in the fight.
He'll put us in a different World War III. He'll put us in a war with Iran. But this is another reason the Democrats are giving Trump the appearance of the peace candidate on the Ukraine war, where Trump's like, hey, I want them to negotiate in peace, and Joe Biden's sending missiles to fly into Russia. So again, I don't like Trump or his foreign policy or his incompetent picks, but this is the Democrats giving him an opportunity to look like the better candidate on this war as Joe Biden launches us closer to World War III, as everyone's like, Trump's going to send us to World War III. Well, right now, Biden literally has Russia talking about using nukes because they're launching American missiles into Russia right now with the clearance of Joe Biden. That's insane.
Well, Donald Trump said he talked to Putin, didn't he? And he told Putin to cut it out. And then when they talked to Putin, Putin said he hadn't heard from him.
I'd rather have somebody talk to Putin than launch missiles into Russia.
So. On another note, I don't know if anybody's aware, but the state of Texas, I was reading the Texas Land Commissioner. Her name is Dawn Buckingham. Apparently, the state of Texas went out in October and bought 1,402 acres from a rancher in Starr County. And they have contacted Donald Trump, and they're going to have this land available for him to use because it's right in the Rio Grande Valley section near the border. And they're giving him this land to use for his mass deportation, to build detention centers and everything. So that's what the state of Texas has done.
Well,
go ahead, Carlos.
I was going to say, maybe you should take it. I was going to say we need to talk about something maybe a little bit more uplifting, maybe like the Tyson Jake Paul fight?
Comedy.
What is there to
that
talk
happened
about,
in Texas,
Carlos?
right?
What is there to talk about? He didn't throw 100 punches.
Hey, they both got
like
paid.
18 punches. Yeah, so I did see some good NFL games, and I did see that the Lakers rookie was doing some good stuff. What's his name, CJ?
Bolton Connect.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
How did people pass on that dude?
Because he's just older. A lot of teams pass on older players. He's like 23 or 24 or something like
Yeah, he's
that. Like
23, I think this is.
yeah, so he was a 4-year college player that was stayed until he was a senior. So a lot of teams look at your upside if you stay and like that. So he's just a late bloomer in college. But JJ Redick has shown that he's a really good coach. JJ Redick is doing a great
Good for
job with
JJ
the
Redick.
Lakers right now.
Yeah, because he was getting a lot of static in the end, but I guess the numbers and the way they playing bear it out.
No, he's proven that he's a great coach. He's maximizing that Lakers roster and really he's getting the best out of LeBron, Anthony Davis. He benched D'Angelo Russell. He was a viral clip of him being really frustrated with Russell, and then he's been out of the starting lineup ever since. And he's just making some really good great coaching decisions. JJ is showing that he's a legitimately really good coach.
I saw some football games over the weekend too. Buffalo quarterback. Come on, I dare you to hit me. Shit.
Gary, that's a big boy to bring down. 6'5", what, 230 or 240. He ran
With a full set,
46-yard
yeah, he had a
touchdown.
little steam. He had a little steam. He was getting to that end zone.
Yeah, he's a big guy, But Carlos's boys showed out. The Detroit Lions.
Ooh.
52 points and 654 yards they put up. That is unreal.
Well, maybe I shouldn't say Detroit's going to win the Super Bowl because it seems like any prediction I've had recently has just not worked out. I think I predicted Harris, Tyson, and obviously the Commanders over the Steelers and the Eagles, but it didn't work out that way. So at this point, I'm just going to be quiet to the end of the season and just give you my thoughts and opinions. But I did find out something that's very interesting. How about this? As good a season as Washington has had, and like I said, it's 7-4, so great turnaround from last year. They're going to win. My prediction is they're going to lose a couple more games. Now you got to think about probably going to beat the Titans, probably going to beat the Cowboys. I'm thinking twice, so that will get them at 10 wins. The key is, can they beat the Falcons and can they beat the Eagles when they play again? So that's really what you're looking at. I think there's one more opponent in there somewhere. But the biggest problem the Commanders will have is trying to make the playoffs. People say, oh, they're definitely a playoff team. No, the division winner in each conference goes to the playoffs. And 2 wild cards. Right now, Minnesota is like 8-2. And I think they're only a game behind Detroit. And Green Bay is 7-3, a half game ahead of Washington. Those are your 2 wild card teams. Washington is now they literally are going to have to win the division unless Green Bay and Minnesota just fall off completely. We're almost to December, so we'll see what happens. Now, either way, Washington has improved this season. If they get to 8 wins, that's doubling up from last year, I believe. So they have nothing to be sad about, but you want to finish strong so you can have that momentum heading into next year. So we'll see what happens. But the word on the street from Florida to Dallas to Colorado is Coach Prime going to Dallas? Come on, Mr. Spivey, what's going on down there? Is Coach Prime it must be about the money. Is he going to follow the money after 2 seasons in Colorado? He got him looking pretty good at Colorado this year. Is he going to roll down to Dallas, man? What do you think about that?
I put Jerry Jones in the same basket with Donald Trump. Jerry Jones, I don't know why people just won't call them what they are. Jerry Jones is not going to have an African-American head coach. It's just not going to happen. I mean, people can hope, wish, and pray. When your guy who is at Washington right now left Dallas as the defense coordinator to take the head coaching job at Washington, his assistant, who was overly qualified, was a black guy. Did Jerry Jones hire him? No, he brought that loser from the Minnesota Vikings who had gotten fired and made him the offensive coordinator. Carlos, I call it like it is. I'm at an age that if you're a racist, I'm going to call you a racist. I'm not going to call you an ultra-conservative. So, no, he's not going to Dallas because Jerry Jones is not going to bring him there. Jerry Jones said the other day he's not going to fire McCarthy.
Well, if he's not firing McCarthy And if he does change his mind and does fire McCarthy, you're pretty confident it's not going to be Coach Prime.
I'm confident it won't be. I might be wrong.
Well,
I said last week the Minnesota Vikings won't lose a game.
Well,
and Buffalo tuned them up on Sunday. I might be wrong, but
You
that
could
is
be.
one thing that I don't think I'm wrong on. Jerry Jones is not going to have an African American head coach. He's never had one, and he's had
Well,
the opportunity in the past. I mean, Jerry Jones could have gotten Derrick Henry. What did he say? He wanted a good fit for the team.
well, if Trump can pick Gates, then Jerry Jones can probably bring North Turner out of retirement. What's North, about 75, 80 right now?
Now, I wouldn't be
Yeah,
surprised.
probably.
You know who I think Jerry Jones is going to bring back? I think he's going to get Bill Belichick.
Come on, man.
Almost
Hey,
75. He might.
He was
No.
supposedly in Dallas a week or so ago.
Yeah, I believe
That's
it.
what they do.
Yeah, the good old boy network. Yeah.
That's what they do.
And maybe that's why the Cowboys are cursed and haven't won a Super Bowl since '96.
Yeah.
CJ, who's your pick? Who you see coming down in the home stretch?
For the Super Bowl, you're saying?
Yeah, let's go. Let's say the NFC and then run it on down.
I like the Lions. The Lions are looking real unstoppable, looking like a juggernaut right there. They just play really, really hard on both sides of the ball. They will win despite 5 interceptions. They'll beat the brakes off of the bad teams that they need to beat, that they're supposed to beat. They just play with a certain amount of intensity. And as Carlos is always saying, it's just their time. I feel like the Lions have been bad for so long. I think it's just about time for them to finally reach the promised land. And in the AFC, I feel like you got to beat the Chiefs and the refs. So like I said, those refs, they got them Chiefs shirts right under those stripes, and they're ready to go. They're ride for Mahomes. It just reminds me of Tom Brady back in the day, where they'll invent new calls to save that man. The tuck rule. What is this? There's new things that they to make sure that this man wins. So I know he's the face of the league, and they want to keep that going, but it's going to be really hard to beat Kansas City as they continue to add pieces like DeAndre Hopkins and give Mahomes. You can play the perfect game and get Mahomed, as they say. You can play the perfect game and he'll just beat you because he's just better.
I agree with CJ. I think it's going to be Kansas City and Detroit in the Super Bowl. And the one thing about Detroit that I've noticed in watching them, their quarterback can throw 5 interceptions, but their defense will stand behind him every time. And that's the difference with a lot of these teams. You know, they think that their quarterback or their offense should put up points to equal the other team simply because their defense have given up points. And I find that a lot with the Cowboy fans because they say, well, the Cowboys gave up 48 points. Well, Dak didn't put up 48 points. Well, that means you think the other team's defense is supposed to play just as bad as yours. It just doesn't happen that way. So yeah, I think it'll be the Lions and Kansas City, and I think Kansas City might break that curse that Carlos keeps saying that there's no three-peat.
Mm. Hey, is Aaron Rodgers done?
Yes.
Yes, it should be.
Cut everybody except him. They fired everybody except him. He's the last common denominator.
He went across the pond and lost a game and came back and got the head coach fired.
Yeah.
This might be time for him to fire up the ayahuasca and the podcast mic and hang it up.
Hey, look, it never works when you get 40-year-old quarterbacks. I mean, Tom Brady is the rare exception. Even Brett Favre, after he turned 40, he couldn't get back to a Super Bowl. I mean, he played hard, but for a couple seasons, but you just can't do it, man. It's a young man's game. And 99.9% of all the players are going to be under the age of 35, and probably another 80% are going to be under the age of 30. It's a young man's game. If you keep trying to, recruit older players, and it's just not going to work. And the Jets, they just lost a boatload of money. And the worst thing you can do is fire a coach in the middle of the season. They have no shot. Once they fired the head coach in the middle of the season, there was no shot. I don't know, in the history of the NFL, there's been no head coach who was an interim head coach that went on to win the Super Bowl that I can remember, and through my research. So they basically just kissed their season goodbye, and now they're at a point where they can't even win games. I think the other guy won he probably got the 1 or 2 games won, or But I don't know, man. The Jets are just terrible. The Giants aren't that great. They've only got 2 wins up there.
They just
Right now,
benched
New
Daniel
York is
Jones.
hurting. It's hurting in football.
What'd you say,
Yeah.
CJ?
I said the Giants just benched Daniel Jones finally. He's a third string quarterback now. And it just shows this year is a great example of the incompetent poverty franchises stay that way because of the leadership up top. The Commanders have finally changed their culture. They got rid of Dan Snyder and everybody at the top got a whole new leadership structure. And now they have some progress, but the same team struggle. You talked about the Jets. The Jets they did Brett Favre before. They didn't learn their lesson when they did Brett Favre when he was super old, and they continue to make those same mistakes. Look at the Browns. The Browns continually incompetent team. They're in quarterback hell because Deshaun Watson is the $200 million contract and lost all his football skills on the massage table. And then we have the Bengals. They have Joe Burrow. They have a Bentley at quarterback who's throwing for
They
500
do.
yards.
He's great.
He's 8 touchdowns, and they're losing every game because of the structure of the team. Their defense is horrendous. They can't protect him. They've got a phenom wide receiver who they don't want to pay for some reason. All their players they don't want to pay for some reason. So again, he's known to be the cheapest owner. So you have Jamar Chase, and it's like, I don't know if we should pay him. He looks like the greatest receiver we've ever seen. He had like 11 for 264 the other week. And you're talking about, I don't know if we should pay him. Like, I don't, yeah. So it just shows that the bad teams stay bad for a reason. And then the good teams like Pittsburgh, the Packers, certain franchises just always seem to be good because they have really good leadership and structure.
Wow.
I agree 100%. And until Dallas changes the structure then and get rid of Dan Snyder, Jerry Jones, they're going to have the same problem. I'm serious. I think if his son takes over, Steven, who was running the team for a while and they were doing decent, I don't think that they're going to do anything. The team that really surprises me this year is Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. I know McCaffrey was out and that hurt them, but they still had Debo and they still have that quarterback and all. I'm really surprised at their record. They're losing on a regular basis now.
Yeah.
A lot of injuries. It's not. Yeah, they've just had injuries everywhere,
Yeah,
all
I
over.
mean, but Carlos, that sharp quarterback and that old quarterback, which you said can't play in the NFL, Russell Wilson, he showed himself against Baltimore on Sunday.
Yes,
And
I will say
he
that.
can't see over the line, but he can put it on the
Well, you
string.
say he can drop the moon ball.
He can drop the moon ball.
Hey, look, you just mentioned something. You guys mentioned something about the 49ers. They're not out of it. You realize their division is so bad. Their division,
What are they for?
the Cardinals are leading the division at 6-4. There's a 3-way tie for second place at 5-5 between the Rams, Seahawks, and 49ers. The 49ers could still easily come back and win it. They're down 1 game, and I'm sure they play the Cardinals at least once before the end of the season. So we'll see what
That sounded
happens.
like NFC a couple of years ago with Washington and Dallas.
You are right about that.
Yeah.
Well,
All right, y'all.
one last thing I want to bring up, and I don't know if y'all been keeping up on it, is this BS with Michael Strahan. Have y'all been hearing
What you
about
got?
this?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it is the most ridiculous thing I ever seen. They had a veterans, let me see if I can get my notes because I don't want to misquote, but they had a Veterans Day. It was Veterans Day. It was a football game, and I think it was in San Diego. And they played, and they were on the San Diego base, and they played the national anthem. And apparently, Michael Strahan, from what he says, he was so in awe with the young soldiers and everybody standing at attention while the anthem was being played. And he had both his hands in front of him at his waist.
Right.
And Bradshaw and Grock, and I think it was one other person, McAfee, they had their hands across their heart. And now the fans are asking that he be removed from the NFL, be removed from Good Morning America, because he didn't show patriotism to the national anthem. And you know what I equate that bullshit with? Obama wearing a tan suit.
Tan suit in the Oval Office, yep.
When he was president.
That's
what I equate that kind of crap to.
Yeah.
And they have signed a petition and everything. They're trying to get the NFL to take him off of the air for Sunday. I think it's $65 million. They call him the $65 million man.
I don't see that happening, man. But all right, y'all. We done kicked it around. I'm glad we ended on sports because, you know, we'll see who's winning. The league now is getting, I mean, the games on Sunday now starting to get interesting, you know.
They are.
And Detroit plays, like you said, they play like their coach, man. They don't mess around. So.
Well, I heard some crazy mess the other day. They're saying they wonder if he's coming to Dallas. Johnson. Why would he come to Dallas when he's got that team at Detroit?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I thought one final thought.
All right.
On Thanksgiving, there are two teams that play every year on Thanksgiving. It's the Cowboys play somebody and the Lions play somebody. So for so many years, you know, let's face it, even if you're a Washington fan, you root for the Washington team and whoever's playing the Cowboys. So you look forward to seeing the Cowboys game on Thanksgiving. This may be the first Thanksgiving ever that we actually look forward to seeing the Lions play. How about that?
Okay.
All
right. Well, on that note, I guess I had to throw away my Mike Tyson pajamas based on that thing that happened last week. So we just let that go. We are the Thought Brothers. Until next week, we are out of here.
Take
Good
care,
night,
folks.
All right.